Dracula orchids are incredible. Besides the monkey face that they show on them, they have such amazing properties. And in this video, I'm going to teach you how to set up a place where you can thrive Dracula orchids, because I've found that they're not as complicated as we think they are. First, where did these monkey-faced orchids come from? Their name did not come from the monkey at all, because in Latin they were first described by Carlisle Lier, and I'm probably butchering his name, written about in 1978. The name was not exactly describing a monkey, but a dragon face. So you can see the two little eyes and the nose, and that's what makes them so fascinating. Their natural habitat, it goes from southern Mexico in the Chiapas area all the way down to the northern tip of Peru, and they are going to stay along the mountain range. Remember that they are high altitude orchids, and altitude really changes everything when you come to Dracula orchids. And that means that they are around 1,800 to 2,200 meters high. I want you to think of a rainforest in the tropics, but now put a mountain range in there. So you've got the heat, but you've got the humidity, you've got jungle vibe. I want you to climb this mountain all the way to near the top. So the temperatures are going to drop drastically, and you're in what we call a cloud forest mountain. So it will still have that jungle feel to it. It will be extremely dense, but you're so high up on this mountain that you're in a cloud forest. So when you wake up in the morning and you're on this trail, you can smell this humidity. Even though it's not raining, there is so much humidity in the air that you are sopping wet. The clouds are so thick that they will not let sunlight in. So your sunlight, when it's going to reach this orchid, it's not going to be high at all. In fact, it's going to be so dim. These are underneath the low light orchids. First, they will need low light. Now I have these adjustable lights that are on a remote control. I can program them to 3, 6, or 9 hours of light, and I can control them through blue light, red light, or purple light. So in this video they're off, because if I turn them on they give a really sickly color and it just looks devastating. So I will get these out of the way, but I found these especially great because I can move them all the way around and they don't bother me at all. And that's one of the reasons why I can't keep my Dracula orchids along with my Phalaenopsis or my Dendrobium or my Cattleya or Brassavola, any of those. I need to keep them lower than that. So a Phalaenopsis will range between 1,300 and 2,000. A Dracula orchid will be in that range too, but I've found less is better. You don't want a light that emits heat, because these will not stand heat whatsoever. You want a LED light because you want the conditions very low. And you can control that through how many hours this light stays on. So instead of keeping, like in my other setup, I have my lights on actually from 12 to 16 hours a day, depending on the time of the year. In this setup, I will only keep them on for 6 to 9 hours a day. That is another way that you can influence their setup. And you're so high up in the mountain that your temperatures are going to drop. So even though you're in an equatorial part of the world, you're high up, and those temperatures are going to be from 50 to 77 Fahrenheit or 10 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that's another reason I cannot grow my Dracula orchids with the rest of my orchids. I had to build this setup, which is what I love to do. Even though it's not raining, and it will rain a lot, these are going to be humid all the time. But they're so high up in the mountains in these cloud forests, it's so strong, the wind, that they will dry out extremely fast. The Dracula orchid was actually trying to imitate not a monkey, not a dragon, but not a vampire, but he was trying to imitate a mushroom. So yes, these do not give a great smell. You can have some that are in between an apple blossom smell to some that are decaying trash smell. It's not very strong. It doesn't bother me. I'm not in there sniffing my terrarium every day. If it was a bigger flower like a cattleya that, you know, or a brassavola that at night it just fills my home office with that smell that's almost intoxicating, you won't feel these as much. Not all Dracula orchids are going to have this monkey face to them. The Dracula orchid that is most similar to the monkey is called the Dracula simia. So if you want to buy that one, look for the simia. They do not have pseudobulbs. They're going to store the water in their thicker leaves, and their leaves are kind of like mini cattleyas. They're a lot thicker, they're a lot more developed, and that is because they don't have pseudobulbs. Since it's humid all the time and it's raining all the time and it's also drying out extremely quick, they don't need pseudobulbs. So when you're going to water, I have to mist this every morning, and that's why I have a false layer. I left a little bit out here. I don't know if the camera can get it, where you can see the false bottom and there is a screen behind it. That's so the water can drop to the bottom of this and then evaporate up. So I, along with the humidifier, which is right here, right there, this is a cool mist humidifier. So it's blowing cold air. So what happens is that this setup during the day is going to stay around 77, and when I turn on my cool mist humidifier at night, it's going to drop it down to around 55, and it's only going to drop it down inside the terrarium and not where I sleep, because I don't want to sleep with like 3 blankets on me. So I'm going to keep this on at night. These are also great to grow in your basement. Your basement will already provide those kinds of temperatures. As long as it's not too cold in winter, then they'll grow fine. In the mountain, in the high altitude, they are going to have this air constantly circulating, and if you keep this humidifier on at night, it's going to trap the humidity inside there, and it's probably going to mold if you don't have that fan. So you can get a small computer fan, usually around $10. Just put it inside there, keep it on while you have your humidifier on. For fertilizer, these Dracula orchids are not going to want a lot, because remember, they're eating almost constantly. They don't have a storage, so they'll be, it's kind of like cheating on a diet. You go over there and you eat a little here and you eat a little there and you eat a little here. You're eating all day long. So you're eating quite a lot, but you're eating extremely tiny portions during the whole day. That's what these Dracula orchids do. So my suggestion is the water that you use to fertilize your other orchids, do not use them in this setup. That's going to make them turn yellow. Their leaves are going to start at the very end and turn yellow and start to be crunchy all the way back. That is a sign of excess fertilizer. I fertilize once a month, and I know that's not a lot. You can fertilize if you use like a 10-10-10, and I just keep it normal. Since these are almost always in bloom, they do not have like a specific bloom cycle. Some will, but most will be blooming constantly throughout the year. I just keep a 10-10-10 all year round and just do that once a month. If I see that they're looking kind of bad or they're not really sprouting the way they should, then I can do it twice a month. Nothing more than that. How are you going to pot these? What potting medium are you going to use? My suggestion is Dracula orchids are extremely different because their flower spikes, instead of emerging from the top, they are going to emerge from the bottom and hang down. So you'll need a plastic net basket or a net cup, or you'll need to mount them like I have mine. You can see it's mounted on top of the tree so that when it does blossom, it will blossom and hang down. Do not use compact potting media for this, because the orchid will hit that potting media, the spike will hit that potting media, and it can't find the way out to actually let that flower out. So you'll need something that is almost pure sphagnum moss so that it can puncture and find its way out to blossom outside of the bottom of the pot. They do imitate mushrooms, and this is because they want to attract their pollinator of choice. And they I mean, you can't criticize the choices. I mean, taste is taste. These little orchids love the pollinator of fungus gnats, fruit flies, little small flies, and these are attracted by rotting trash. They are going to have a smell that is not that great. Always ask your vendor, what do they smell like? And some actually have a good smell, like a ripe apple, but most are going to smell pretty bad. On the website, I do have a list of the smells of what I've smelled that actually smells wonderful and what I've smelled that it's like, can I have a refund? For crosses and divisions, if you cross a Masdevallia with a Dracula, you get a Dracularia. But they are in the same family. That's why they can cross so easily. And I do have Masdevallias in here too because their growing conditions are almost the same. To divide these orchids, you will want to at least have 6 leaves on each cluster, and then you can cut them. Don't get too small of a cluster because since they don't have pseudobulbs, they're going to drain all that energy out of their leaves to produce new leaves, and so that's going to take a hit. In Cattleyas, you can leave at least 3 divisions, 3 pseudobulbs. Draculas, you cannot. Make sure that you have at least 8 healthy leaves. Make that cluster huge. They're not going to grow out like a sympodial orchid where the rhizome will crawl down the tree. They will grow in tight little clumps, so when that clump is never going to take over the whole branch. If you need to divide them and they are in constant flower, that's going to take a hit, but they are almost always in constant bloom. So what you're going to do is you're going to wait till late winter. That's the best time to actually divide these. In all, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a like, a thumbs up, leave a comment down below of how you grow your Dracula orchids, or if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching, and happy cultivating.